In the summer of 2009, Sylvain Redoutey, an experienced French caver, ventured into the depths of the Pierre Saint-Martin cave system. This cave, hidden beneath the rugged terrain of the Pyrenees Mountains, was known for its complex network of tunnels and the profound silence that lay beyond its entrance. On that fateful day, Sylvain was particularly excited. Before we proceed, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification. Let's get back to the video. His goal was to chart areas of the cave that no map had yet detailed. With his gear secured and his headlamp piercing the darkness, he delved into the cave's mouth, feeling the cool embrace of the underground air. As he progressed, the cave's narrow passages welcomed him like the intricate veins of a giant beast. He admired the formations of rock and mineral that had taken nature thousands of years to sculpt. And the further he went, the more he felt a part of this hidden world. Hours passed as Sylvain followed the cave's winding paths. He marked his route carefully on his map, ensuring that every twist and turn was recorded. His light revealed the beauty of the cave, stalactites hanging like icicles from the ceiling, and stalagmites rising from the ground to meet them. But as he ventured deeper, the challenge grew. The passage became tighter and more complex. Sylvain had to crawl on his hands and knees. His bag scraped against the rocks. He squeezed through a particular tight passage, a shortcut to a chamber he wanted to explore. This passage, known among cavers as the Squeeze, was a narrow crack in the earth that only the bravest dared to pass. Sylvain, confident in his skills, pushed forward. As he inched through, the space became so constricted he could barely breathe. He had to remove his backpack and push it in front of him to fit through. Suddenly, without warning, there was a distant rumble. Sylvain paused, listening. It was water, and a lot of it, rushing towards him. Heavy rains on the surface had caused the cave to begin flooding, a rare but dangerous occurrence. Water started to fill the passage around him. Sylvain realized he was in trouble. The way forward was too narrow and filled rapidly with water, and going back the way he came was impossible. He was stuck, with water rising around him. Panic set in as he struggled to think of a way out. In that moment, Sylvain remembered a small upward leading offshoot from the Squeeze. It was a risky move as the offshoot was unexplored and could be a dead end, but it was his only chance. Fighting against the rising water, he managed to pull himself into the offshoot. It was a steep, rocky climb, but it led him to a small chamber above the water level. Exhausted and soaked, Sylvain reached the chamber, his heart pounding. He was safe from the water for now, but he was also trapped. The chamber was small, with no clear exit, and the only way out was the way he had come, now completely submerged. With his options limited, Sylvain turned on his radio transmitter, his lifeline to the outside world. He sent out a distress signal, hoping it would reach the surface. Then, all he could do was wait, hoping for rescue, surrounded by the cold, unyielding rock. As Sylvain sat in a small, dark chamber, his thoughts raced. The cold dampness of the cave seeped into his bones, and the silence was broken only by a distant roar of water. He was trapped, but he clung to the hope that his distress signal had reached someone on the surface. Meanwhile, above ground, the sudden and unexpected storm had caused concern. The heavy rainfall was unusual for the season, and local authorities were monitoring its effects. When Sylvain's distress signal was received, it triggered immediate action. The local rescue team, familiar with the cave system but wary of its dangers, prepared for a challenging operation. The team gathered at the cave's entrance as the rain continued to pour. Equipped with waterproof gear, powerful lights, and emergency supplies, they entered the cave. Their primary goal was to locate Sylvain quickly and assess his condition. The team included experienced cavers who knew the cave's layout, which gave them a slight advantage despite the adverse conditions. As they made their way into the cave, the challenges became apparent. The passages were slippery, and the normal calm streams within the cave had turned into raging torrents. The team moved carefully, securing ropes as they went to ensure a safe return. Communication with the surface was kept constant, updating the team on the weather and any changes in the cave's condition. Deep inside the cave, Sylvain tried to keep his spirits up. He checked his supplies, limited food and water, a first aid kit, and his caving tools. He knew he had to conserve his energy, so he tried to rest despite the discomfort and worry. Every sound in the cave made him alert, hoping it was a rescue team. Hours passed, and Sylva's hope began to wane. He thought about his family, his friends, and the life he might never return to. It was in these moments of despair that he heard something, a faint sound that grew louder. Voices. They were muffled by the rock and water, but they were unmistakable. Rescue was close. The rescue team had been navigating the cave for hours. Their progress was slow and careful, mapping their route and marking hazards. When they reached the squeeze, the narrow passage Sylvain had described in his distress call, they found it completely flooded. The team leader made the decision to send a small, specialized group forward. They were equipped with diving gear and knew they might have to go underwater to reach Sylvain. The divers moved through the water-filled passage, guided by ropes they had attached. It was dark and the water was murky, making visibility near zero. They relied on their knowledge of the cave and the direction Sylvain had provided in his last communication. Finally, the divers reached the offshoot where Sylvain had climbed. They shouted out to him, and hearing his response was a moment of sheer relief for everyone. Sylvain, hearing the divers, gathered his remaining strength and responded as loudly as he could. The divers quickly assessed the situation. Getting Sylvain out through the flooded passages would be dangerous, but staying in the cave was not an option. They prepared a harness for him, explaining how they would help him navigate back through the water. Sylvain, exhausted but determined, agreed to the plan. The journey back was tense and difficult. Sylvain, guided by the divers, had to rely completely on their expertise. The cold water and narrow confines of the passage tested his resolve, but the thought of seeing the outside world again gave him strength. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged from the cave. The rain had stopped, and the first light of dawn was breaking. Sylvain, though weak and chilled, was overwhelmed with relief. He was greeted by the rescue team and paramedics, who quickly wrapped him in blankets and began checking his conditions. The rescue operation was a success, and Sylvain's story of survival became a testament to the bravery of the rescuers and his own will to survive. He knew he would never forget the ordeal, but he also knew he would go back to caving, more cautious, but just as passionate about exploring the depths of the earth. Back on the surface, Sylvain was taken away by the paramedics. The rescue team gathered around, their faces showing relief and exhaustion. They had worked tirelessly through the night, battling the cave's harsh conditions and the anxiety of the unknown. It was a testament to their dedication and the spirit of the caving community, which always came together in times of need. Sylvain was transported to the nearest hospital. The medical team there was ready and waiting, having been alerted to the situation. They performed a thorough checkup to ensure he hadn't sustained any serious injuries during his ordeal. Fortunately, aside from mild hypothermia and some bruises, Sylvain was declared healthy. His first request, much to the amusement of the medical staff, was for a warm meal and a cup of coffee. The news of Sylvain's rescue spread quickly. Friends, family, and fellow cavers who had been waiting anxiously for news were relieved and overjoyed. Sylvain's phone was flooded with messages and calls, his story touching people far beyond his immediate circle. Once he had recovered enough, Sylvain had a press conference, sitting before a room full of journalists. He recounted his experience in the cave. He described how the sudden flood had trapped him, his efforts to find refuge, and the agonizing hours he spent waiting for rescue. He spoke with emotion about the moment he heard the divers and knew he was going to be saved. Sylvain expressed his deep gratitude to the rescue team. He knew that without their bravery and quick action, he might not have survived. He also emphasized the importance of safety measures while exploring caves. His ordeal had given him a new perspective on the risks involving caving, and his pledge to advocate for better safety practices and equipment in the community. The experience, while traumatic, did not dampen Sylvain's passion for caving. Instead, it deepened his respect for the natural forces and the environments he explored. He promised to return to caving, but with a renewed commitment to caution and preparation. In the weeks that followed, Sylvain's story became a lesson in survival and heroism. It was also a stark reminder of the dangers that adventurers face when they delve into the Earth's hidden depths. Schools and caving clubs invited him to speak, eager for him to share his knowledge and insights. Sylvain took on this role with enthusiasm, hoping that his experience would teach others and possibly save lives in the future. As for the Pierre Saint-Martin cave system, it was temporarily closed to the public. Experts conducted a thorough review of its safety protocols and made improvements where necessary. When it eventually reopened, cavers returned with a sense of caution, mindful of the lessons learned from Sylva's ordeal. Sylva's adventure had started as a quest for discovery, but it became much more than that. It was a journey of survival, a demonstration of human resilience and solidarity. He had entered the cave as an explorer, driven by curiosity, and he emerged as a survivor who understood the true value of community and safety in the face of nature's unpredictability.